Hello and welcome to the Stone Ridge Connect session. This one is called Fix It Before It Fails, Field Service in the Age of AI. My name is Bill Kern. I'll be your presenter. We're here to talk about how Dynamics 365 Field Service in the CE group of business application connects with AI and how AI can help with those efficiencies when we're talking about Dynamics Field Service. Great to have you with us. So a little bit about myself. My name is Bill Kern. I'm a pre-sales architect here at Stone Ridge. Been with Stone Ridge for a couple years now. I got my MBA from Marquette University and been part of the overall Microsoft Dynamics community since 2003. I am certified in Dynamics 365 Field Service through their functional consultant line of things. Basically, I learned my field service chops coming out of a field service ISV or independent software vendor that came from a mechanical contractor. So learned from that industry and everything else. So it's great to be here with you. When we talk about Dynamics Field Service and we think about it, I always say we're really talking about the work order life cycle. So with the work order life cycle of really how do those service organizations or field service organizations go out and assist their clients and customers with the service they provide. So how does that work order or what needs to be done, how is it generated? It can be generated in many different ways, from IoT alerts and emails, phone calls, maybe even from cases or from work that needs to be done, new installations and things. In this area, we're going to talk about and take a look at a little bit from a demonstration how it starts with an IoT alert. So how does the asset actually reach out and say, hey, I need servicing, I need help? A little bit more of that predictive or having it with minimal human interaction. So then once it gets created, we take a look at scheduling. How does it get to the right resources, the ones that have the right skill set, the right availability, close by, territory-wise, those types of things. And then what does it look like when the technician receives that so they can optimize how they can resolve that issue or that problem that might be on that specific asset and what they're doing. There's other ways of engaging customers through portals and texts and different things that can happen with the solution. Fortunately, we don't have that time today. And then really the other thing is, as that information and that data is coming in, how does it be analyzed? Analyzed by the managers and things, and how can AI help to summarize that when you're asking natural language of Copilot from that information? How can Copilot and AI take that data and then actively use that for adjusting different things like, hey, we know a fix might take 2 hours. After several months, we're finding that fix doesn't take 2 hours. Maybe it takes an hour and a half or an hour. So adjusting that time so more work can be done and more productivity can occur with those service organizations. So I provide this slide as really that overview or that discussion and thought along the lines of what is that work order life cycle, and then how does Copilot or AI add efficiencies to different parts and pieces or processes within field service. You can see the link here. One of the favorite things to do is to go out to Microsoft Learn and take a look at it and get a little bit more information. There is a little bit more information out there for our clients and prospects to take a look and get a better understanding of how what I'm going to show today is possible with integrating AI and adding those efficiencies within the solution. So let's jump in and take a look at it. So we're in my Dynamics CE or 365 Field Service business application. And for those of you who know it, might see it, recognize it, some of you might be on sales, some of it, this might be new to you if you're looking at, or maybe you're on your Business Central or ERP solution. But as we take a look at it, we always want the dashboard. We've got the information, that key, that data that can provide to us. With this solution, we've always got our Copilot in the upper right-hand corner. And with Copilot, if you've worked and interacted with it, you can ask natural language and say, hey, what's my high priority work orders for this week? Or other things that I might need to be do, or what's a new alert or things that are coming up to provide me that data and that insight from the manager's point of view or the organization, maybe even the scheduler's point of view of what they need to attack and what they need to do. So Copilot can help with that, along with enhancing or what they would see from the dashboards and the different things that are there as they're looking at the specific solution. As I mentioned, really with the work orders and how do we start the work orders, or how do we get that predictive or be a little bit more of, hey, something's going to go on or something's going to break quickly or something did happen before the human actually reaches out and emails or picks up the phone or something along those lines. One of the ways we do that is through IoT and IoT alerts. So I've gone ahead and created an IoT alert. Microsoft Dynamics Field Service has that connection, leveraging Azure, leveraging those connections as you have connections with the assets that are at your client's location, so they can provide the constant data or when it's out of range and things to help with that predictability or that quick, hey, this is going to happen. Maybe it's coming out of range. Maybe it's higher vibration, higher temperature, different things that are going to happen to say, hey, this is going to fail. It's going to fail pretty soon. Can we proactively send a technician to go and fix it before it fails? Or I just recently failed. In my example here with my air is I had an alert happen earlier in the day as far as, hey, this happened and what happens. So along with it, with the solution, with the structure in place of the creation of an alert that can turn into a work order, or maybe as an organization, if we want to go ahead and triage that alert a little bit further with creation of a case for those of you that might be knowledgeable in customer service and the customer service workflow. A lot of times customer service is working with field service hand in hand for a complete service solution that's there, and you might want to triage it before you roll a truck, because we all know with field service that the cost to roll a truck is high, so we want to manage that. Or, no, we know it. We know based on the alert that happened and the work that needs to be done, we definitely need to roll that truck and we need to do it. So we can have a process in place where the system can move things along and go right from alert to create that specific work order. In creating that work order of what needs to be done, where it can match the error code to what needs to be done with the specific work order. So what type of work, the what, that's a part of it. In this world with Dynamics Field Service, that's called an incident type. And the incident type is what work needs to be done, what products do we need to bring, what characteristics or skill sets need to be connected with that right resource that we're working with. So we can create this alert, we can get different statuses, we can have data, we can have different charts and see it. We can understand how many alerts have been created for this asset, for this specific account that we're working with. But let's go in and let's say, hey, from this alert, we've created the work order. And the system can do that. It can have the smarts, so we have the artificial intelligence to make that handshake and make that connection to go ahead and do this. So if we go into the work order that we created, we're going to see a number of different things there and some things that are going to come up that are going to help us from Copilot and being able to do that. So really, we create and we've made that connection from that IoT alert or from that case to create this work order. The first thing that we see really staring us in the face is a way for Copilot to provide us this summary. Maybe there's a lot here. There's a lot going on relative to the work that needs to be done, maybe a couple different assets, maybe a number of different parts and pieces that need to be a part of this, or certain approvals that need to happen or whatever. But Copilot can help us in providing that quick summary. It can provide the summary here for the scheduler in what they need to do and help them make certain decisions relative to that. We'll also see a summary for the technician, and with the technician in how they can do and saying, hey, when I come on site or before I walk in the front door, what exactly am I doing, without clicking and moving around and scrolling a lot? Because especially on their mobile device, they're not going to have as much area on things that they have to be able to go and review that. So this summary is very beneficial, and things that can happen and how things can happen there. We've got it, once again, as I said, that incident type, we have to do that rooftop unit repair. That's where our error code was coming from. It was coming from a specific asset that was out there, that rooftop unit 16, and it's bringing in with field service. If you're not familiar with field service, just a couple of key information that's a part of it. The service account. Where are we going? Where is the location of that service that we're doing? What's the work order type? What type of service we're doing? That general service, or maybe service on rooftop units or other things based on the area code that we have. So more data for reporting and things that are important for those service organizations and what they need to do. The incident type is really the what. The what are we doing when we're doing that specific work or we're creating that work order. We've got that summary. We also have, and the intelligence or the helping from field service, before we've even gone to the schedule board and looking at it, it's surfacing up who would be a good technician to go ahead and do this work. So if quickly we want to go ahead and say, hey, I want to do this. We want to minimize the clicks. We want to add that efficiencies for the back office. They saw the alert. They quickly created the work order, or maybe the system even created the work order for them. In doing that, boom, boom. Now, here's a resource I can grab without even looking at the schedule board. Boom, boom. I can do that quickly. So it's those efficiencies, the efficiencies on each different steps of the work order that can be done and that can be provided there. Really quick, a little bit more information that we have relative to the billing account, who receives the bill, what asset we talked about it, who is the contact that maybe reached out or not, or who's the main contact that we need to talk to when we arrive. If you guys have ever seen that commercial, there was a while back, there was a commercial for a large organization, and a technician showed up to fix an elevator. And they said, wait a minute, who called? And they said, no human called. The asset called and said, that's why we're here. So when the technician arrives and says, hey, Renee, I'm here to fix this rooftop unit. Wait a minute, I don't remember anybody calling you. No, the rooftop alerted us and let us know. So that's that proactive and how the system can help and what they can do and what they can provide there. We can have all other things, taxes and other pricing and things that's available. We get that map of where we're going, so that service account on where we need to go ahead and fix that specific unit, and even the functional location of where is that specific asset that we're going to go ahead and work on. All things that can help the technician in what they need to do and how they need to do that work. So real quick, I'm going to step back and talk about that incident type of what are we doing? What are we doing specifically with this work order? What is that technician going to help? How are they going to attack? We know there's an error on that rooftop unit. We're going to do that repair. And with that repair, when we connect up and we say, when we do this repair, we find it, most often than not, we have to replace a belt. And so we better make sure that we have that belt. We have that belt on our truck before we leave or what we're doing. So doing that, those are products. If we need to add additional products, we can go ahead and do that. We know we need one at an estimated status. We also know services. So really the services is the labor. How long do we believe this is going to take to do that specific service and do that? So it's the labor time, and related to that labor time, we can have some specific tasks and tasks that the technician and outlining and say, make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing the safety information, make sure you're performing that repair, or you're also double checking the compressor or other things that need to be done. But the other enhancement and things that can be part of it and in here within field service, that intelligence, and I'm going to go in real quick to the settings, and we have that intelligence as far as setting up, is that suggested duration. So over several months, how many months are you going to take data and understand and analyze? We say this is going to take 2.5 hours, maybe over 3 months or 6 months. As you're doing this work, as you're repairing those different things, you're finding, you know what? It doesn't take 2.5 hours, or most of our technician can do this in an hour and 45 minutes or an hour and a half or what have you, even 2 hours. That is so key for those service organizations in what they need to do. Because what happens is if you can shrink that time or adjust it and adjust that duration, and you're able to add one more work order to their schedule, oh my goodness, your bottom line and the profit to your bottom line really goes up. That's the key that they want to do, in being able to go and get more work done in a day. And if you can make that adjustment and the system can help you in analyzing those work orders that are done and gone about, that they can go ahead and do that, that's huge. And that's where the data and analyzing the data and AI and how it can help you help those service organizations. And you're increasing your ROI with the system and with the solution. So being able to do that and help that and letting AI and the system analyze and understand all of that data and provide efficiencies that way, okay? So we're able to do that. So we talk about products, we talk about tasks, we talk about how long it takes to go ahead and do this. The other thing really quickly relative to it is when we talk about the incident type is the characteristics or the skill sets. Who do I need to go ahead and assign this to? Somebody that's really good with HVAC work, and they're going to be obviously within a certain location that's a part of it. So let's go ahead and go into our schedule board and think about how can we add those efficiencies and that Copilot or AI. We talked a little bit about the work order creation and efficiencies with the duration of time, with the summaries, with some different things there that can help and help us with that. Here we see a very colorful board, once again, for those that might not be familiar with field service, in taking a look at our specific asset, our resources. Our resources are our technicians. Maybe it's our own technicians. Maybe it's subcontractors that we work with and we do some different things with. Or it could be even equipment that needs to be tied to that specific work that we do. So all of those different things, we can see our board in many different ways, geographically, skill set wise, all of those things. We can have it over a day, over several days, over a week or monthly. We can jump to a specific day. We can do many different things as far as helping us to improve that ability to schedule and get the right resource on that specific job and what we're doing and how we're doing that. So really in what we're doing and taking that is I have myself here, and if I look at my resource card that I have specifically, let's bring that up and take a look at it, you'll see that I have that HVAC characteristic. So I have that skill set that can be done. I think if you saw it on the bookings, we also saw that Susan had that as well. So who's got that availability? Who can go and do this specific work? I can simply take this and drag and drop it onto the schedule. That's the manual way to do that. That's for the tribal knowledge for those dispatchers and what they need to do and how they need to do specific things. But let's leverage a little bit more. Not necessarily AI, but it's still that efficiencies and the efficiencies of the solution in helping me schedule. So offering those suggestions, we saw those suggestions on the work order itself. It's called the schedule assistant. So how does the system help you out? So a bit of AI, because it's that artificial intelligence, or it's the computer helping make those connections. So if I take number 51, this work order that we're doing, and say, find availability for me, and make all those connections based on distance, based on the skill sets that are available, all of those types of things, it can go ahead and provide a list and say, hey, here's available. What's that? Gives me a little red heart. The little red heart is that was the preferred resource. This specific asset liked this preferred resource as far as what's there and what's available. We're getting a little bit closer as I go ahead and provide this as far as the end of the day or what's there. So we can go ahead and put it in there and say, hey, let's do this and put it on this specific day. I'm going to go ahead and book an exit. And when I'm booking and exiting, what it's doing is it's going ahead and it's going to provide that to the technician. So it has that to the technician. They're going to be about 20 minutes away from where they're starting or from their previous work on what needs to be done. So it's the solution that's going on in helping with making that connection of assigning that work to the technician, offering up those suggestions, offering the suggestions of the different technicians can do that work, the distance based on where they are, and different things there. So we took a look and understood, if we go back, of how we create that work order and how AI can help us with the connections and saying, here's an alert, and how do we connect the work that needs to be done, that incident type, to the work order. And then when we create that work order and all the different aspects that are part of it, how long is it going to take? Who's the resource? Do they have the right characteristics? What do we suggest? We can see that on the work order itself. Maybe the dispatcher needs to change or adjust some things. And then when we get to scheduling, how we can assign it, or we could assign it from there. All of these processes that I just went through to show you, to give you an idea of how this is all possible, all of this could be done with the different information and things as things are filled in, could be filled in automatically from beginning to end, from alert all the way technician. The computer could do this. You could have it with little to no human interaction. If you've got all of those things connected, all of those smarts, all of that understanding, and going ahead to do that, so the technician can be dispatched quickly, and that can be addressed a little bit more quickly and things like that. The other thing of, a lot of times you slow down with, maybe you're slowing down a little human interaction, or I've heard a lot as far as the different human interaction of people that are using current solutions. Believe it or not, some people, for scheduling and things along those lines, are still using whiteboards. I've still heard and seen people use paper for work orders, which is crazy in the year 2026, but it is possible. Or most common, people are using systems, and they're using systems that are disconnected or siloed or things like that, or they're retyping things in. And as you have more of that, different things where things need to be retyped or things, that's where the errors increase. The errors of what's done, or making sure things are sent out right, or things along those lines, that happens. If you can add efficiencies where you're comfortable as you get going, as the data gets better and improved and everything, and you're having the AI where it can do it from alert all the way to technician and have it tracked all in the system, think about that efficiencies. Think about what's going to be done. We're not going to go ahead and replace the role of the dispatcher, what they're doing, but they can interact with more customers and clients, which is ultimately key for the CSAT scores and what needs to be done there and how to help them and things along that, rather than this administrative things that need to be done, or click, or putting in more manual things and maybe typing a 5 instead of a 1 or 2 or whatever, increasing errors. So we're adding efficiencies in what we want to do and how we need to do things from that standpoint. So we've done it, we've created it, we've scheduled it. Now let's go ahead and take a look and saying, hey, where's the efficiencies for the technician? in what the technician needs to do on a day-to-day basis. How's Copilot going to go help them in what they're doing as they're out in the field? And when they're out in the field, and as we do it, now give me a minute here, is a lot of times if they're going to go ahead and leverage their smartphone or their handheld device that they're going to go ahead and use, how can it go ahead and help them with that? So let's bring up our field service mobile app, okay? So with our application, I happen to have an Android phone. This can work on Android phones. It can also work on Apple or iPhones. It can be worked in an online mode or it can be worked in offline. So that efficiencies with the technicians, if they go someplace where it doesn't have good coverage, maybe they're going into a hospital where sometimes they discourage use of phones or things, or you're in a very heavy steel building where you don't have coverage and you don't have access to their Wi-Fi or things like that, where they can still go ahead and do the work that they need to do. Now, as we take a look at this, and we're seeing my schedule, we're seeing some different things from today and tomorrow and other things that are available as we're looking at those specific works or work order that needs to be done. If I go into our work order number 51, it was for A Datum FS Corporation, and I click on those three dots, the three dots that are all the way to the right. One of the things that comes up is Copilot. And so you can say for Copilot, as we go ahead and we say, Copilot, can you tell me, I'm going to be on my way and do that, please summarize this work order. It goes ahead and it summarizes it for me. So I get a little bit more of that information or that background prior to maybe even driving over there or when I arrive, before I really dive in and take a look at that work order itself. Maybe I go and I do that specific work and I want to go ahead and do it and I want to say update, and I can, if you do this with your device, a lot of times you can leverage the microphone and you can talk to text. You can also, or if they just want to type it in and what they want to do and say completed all my tasks for this work order and say okay. And so then what Copilot can do as it's generating those suggestions and that generating that information is how can it provide efficiencies for those technicians in the work that they need to do and how they're doing it. So here it's saying, okay, if you've gone ahead and completed all their tasks, I can change this work order from scheduled to completed. I can say, hey, I've completed my job safety task, my compressor evaluation, I performed that repair, I did some refrigeration tracking or some other things that are there. Go ahead and close it out and do that. So having Copilot, have the AI help with completing the different tasks that are a part of the work order. I haven't even opened the work order yet. Now, I'll show you as far as a lot of times those technicians are still going to open those work orders and do that. But just know that's a part of it, of how those efficiencies, the technician where Copilot can help them in completing it. Because I know one of the big things that we hear with mobility for field service is the acceptance and the user and the usability of it and everything for technicians. If technicians are working on a lot of things, they have safety gloves on, they fat finger, most of them they want to turn those wrenches or different things like that. Yeah, people have smartphones and things, and our technicians are getting younger as they're coming and doing things, but they want to do their work just like the schedulers in doing their work. How can I pick up the phone and talk to those customers more? The technician, how can I go and turn my wrench and fix things and just do that and minimize my administrative work? How does Copilot become that really admin, that assistant that can help me in completing some different things. So let's go in and jump in. I'm just going to discard my suggestions here, and we'll go into that specific work order. So how did we take a look at it? Also gives you a little bit of an idea there with field service as they're taking a look at the work they need to do. So you see my booking status. I've got it and can be scheduled in what I can do, and I can see that I can change it to traveling. I can say that I'm on site, update that status so it can update the schedule board and know it, and even tying into when they change it from scheduled to in process or what they're doing. It can capture that time, capture that labor time and that data and all the things that we talked about tied to the time it takes to do something, or how long does it take to travel? Why does it take somebody a little longer than others for coaching capability and things along those lines? So how we're able to do that, you'll see we saw it in that main page, how we can go ahead and generate that summary of this specific work order. We can also generate the summary here on this page. So all of this, for those of you that know about dynamic CE, or maybe you don't, I always talk about the configurability of the solution. And really, not that we're customizing, but we're configuring how we can configure the back office and some things we've looked at, but how it's possible to also configure the mobile application for those technicians to make it easy for them in the work they need to do. Couple different ways to see that summary of this specific work, either on this page or on their calendar view and their agenda view and what they need to take a look at and see. We can see that customer information wherever it's blue. We can go back and see that information there. We've got a map of where we're going, or where are we going from a functional location as we're going ahead and working on that specific asset that needs to be fixed and things that are there. The main screen, and mainly what we're looking at, is service. And that service area, what are all of the different things that the technician needs to do? So when I talked about the efficiencies of Copilot and AI and how it can help them, is normally if you don't have it or you're not leveraging it, you're going through and they're tapping these specific circles to say, here's the work that I'm doing or what I need to do and complete. Where Copilot can actually go ahead and help them when we said, what do you want to do? How do you want to work with this? Or what did you complete or things? You'll see little paperwork next to job safety or refrigerant tracking. That's something called inspection reports or reports that all can be a part of it and things that are there relative to it. So all of those things that they can complete it, have Copilot assist them with that admin times. Or if we're putting in our labor time or our labor services and say, no, it didn't necessarily take me 2.5 hours. It took me an hour and a half. Yes, I consumed this specific product that was there. I did that. So I've got all of those types of things. The other thing that really what Copilot can help with, what you can also add or put in there as part of it, is an idea and a concept called those linked articles. And it's really that knowledge base of what do I need to do? Maybe I'm a new technician and I'm learning some things, or I need to surface up some information. If you guys have ever done it really with it where you're asking Copilot, a lot of people nowadays are asking Copilot, asking the engine, asking different things, questions relative to, give me a little more information here, or if this happens or that happens. Either you can have the data through articles, you can have the data other ways, but that's another way of how are we helping the technician with what they need to do specifically out in the field and having all that. So as we go through and we capture all of this, they can obviously, number one, and the really key is capturing some specific notes and saying, hey, if I need to add a photo or add some additional text and said, I completed this and that as far as what I'm doing or what I can do. So adding all of that information that they can put in there. They can capture photos, they can capture video, they can put in some things, other things that they're finding, all of that being possible. But the other thing that's really key when you're talking about the system, you're talking about AI and bringing all of that information, we saw how there was a summary of what they needed to do. What about a summary when they're completely done? So how do they go ahead with it and say, hey, I need to create a report? And on their phone and provide that to the client and customer of, here's my report of what I specifically did, when I started, when I finished, the amount of time it took me, the different materials or products that I used, those tasks that were be done, all of those types of things, and they can go ahead and look at it. And then if you show them right from the phone, right from a tablet or whatever, the client can then go ahead and sign it and confirm it. And that signature can be part of that specific report. So all of those things is really helping them from beginning to end, from what am I going to do? As I'm doing different things, help me with completing those tasks, consuming those products, putting in my hours, different things as far as I can type in natural language. Assist me with, I'm getting stuck. Where's a reference that can help me? Maybe there's an article attached, maybe not, in doing that. Now I'm done. Let's provide a report to the client and what they need to do there and providing that efficiency and all of those things that need to be done there. So it goes from beginning to end. So imagine that we can go ahead and we say, hey, we've completed this specific work and these things that we have done. So I can go ahead and let's cancel out on sharing that. Let's go back and share my screen here, share my main screen. So we'll go back to the back office as we've gone ahead and done it and done that specific work that we've done. Then the last component that we talked about, that's all part of it, is really the reporting. So how do the managers, how do those individuals take that information in that whole process from creating the work order, scheduling, the technicians doing their specific work, all of those things, how can the system in doing that help me create those specific reports? And with it, we've get many different views. If you've seen it and worked with CE, we've got different views we can filter, we can column. Those are things that individuals and users can do. We can also visualize the view and say, hey, help me create a Power BI report or charts and graphs and things like that to help me analyze and better manage my business in what I need to do, or coach the specific technicians that might need further assistance, or how many work orders that we had from a specific priority, or what were the incident types, what were we working on as far as how much was maintenance, how much was it repairing those air handler units, or different things like that. So how can the system surface up and provide that information? So as a manager, as a business owner, I can do that. Service manager, coach my people, or business that I can manage some different things. And even those other reporting that I talked about, adjusting the time of those specific work orders and things that are there. So all of those different things that are possible, as well as Copilot helping with the reporting things as far as what are details for certain work orders that I've done, or showing high priority work orders, or other information, analyzing that data that comes through and saying, surface that up, provide that to me, in doing some different things that are a part of it. So from beginning to end in all of that, that's what's possible, and what's possible really in the system today, if I say out of the box. The other thing I'll end with, we've got a bit of time here and everything else to talk about it, is where are others, or where's the next steps? What's the future? How can it help and what it's going to do and what it's going to provide? And we think of a concept and an idea called agents. And so Copilot taking that data and being more of that assistant in what they're doing. So when we think of work orders and we think of these maintenance work orders, preventive maintenance work orders of some things that need to be done. For work order number 45, if I'm going to go ahead and do some specific maintenance and I need fans, I need a specific product, or filters, more than common. We think of those preventive maintenance contracts. I'm going to go out and see a client quarterly or a couple times a year or different things like that. When I do that, or how often I'm going to do that for my 150, 500, however many clients, I know I'm going to need so many filters, so many fans. I'm going to need a certain amount of products. Wait a minute, I better have those on hand. Now, if I'm going quarterly, I don't want if I'm selling all these contracts, go ahead and get 1,000 filters in January. And at January 31st, I've got to store all of these filters in my warehouse and take up a whole bunch of room. No, what the agents can do and what it can help you is saying, you've got these many preventive maintenance work orders coming up in the next month, the next quarter. Assigned to them, you're going to need some filters. You're going to need 50 filters. So let's go and order them. Let's collect that. What products do we need? What do we need? What do we have on hand? What do we need to order? So that agent, AI, taking all of that data, what product needs to be ordered, at what time is it going to be needed, all of those things, order that, create that purchase order or that purchase requisition, get that over to the ERP solution and say, hey, please order this so that I'm going to have that product on hand in order to be prepared for my preventive maintenance work that I'm going to do. So really, as you think about it and taking that data, we're talking about the efficiencies in the work order lifecycle. We're still talking about the efficiencies in the work order lifecycle, but it's the prep at the front end of a lot of times there's work orders and saying, wait a minute, waiting on parts. I got to wait on parts before I can dispatch somebody. What if the system or AI and Copilot can help you in saying, we know these are coming, especially when it's preventive maintenance work. It's that regular, repeatable work that needs to be done. That they can go ahead and order these parts, these filters, these fans, these whatever needs to be done, and put all of that together, send that over to the ERP, and have that be ordered and have it ready for those work orders or the preventive maintenance work that needs to be done in May and June and July, the next 3 months that comes up, in doing that, rather than somebody manually going in and saying, oh yeah, I think we've got these many, or give me a manual list of how much do I need to do. Okay, let me count them up, or can I put it in Excel, count them up and do that, and then, okay, now I'm going to go give it to our purchasing person over here, and okay, do we need this, and what do we need to do, and how do we need to do that, and order that. So you got a couple people maybe even doing that. And what's the chance of error as they're manually doing that and what they're specifically doing? Yes, you might still, as you send that over and send it over to the purchasing person, that they want to go get those quantities as they're talking to the vendors and things, let them do that. But let this system drive some of that and collect that data and put that and add those efficiencies for you in what you're doing. So a lot of power behind it for those work orders and the work order life cycles and the different things that we talked about, adding efficiencies within that work order life cycle. I'll bring that up again on how we added efficiencies in Copilot from the creation of the work order, creating it, turning it from an alert into a work order. How do we get it scheduled? That scheduled assistant in really being able to match the work that needs to be done and how it needs to be done to the right resource. All those efficiencies that we provided the technicians, and that's really key. Make their lives easier. Let them do what they do best in fixing what is broken, and help them with the admin work of completing those tasks for me on hand. Provide me a quick summary of what I'm going to go do. Create a report that I can show a client and customer and doing some things. Surface up some additional help if I need it and what I need to do. And then those owners can go ahead and analyze the data and take a look at it and make sure they're managing the direction and driving the ship of the business to where it needs to go and what it needs to do. So it's exciting. It's exciting of what's there. You saw a little bit of what's there today. Talked about a little bit of what's possible with agents and things. There are more things coming. Keep a lookout. Go ahead and join our What's New as far as different things. I was just on a confab a little while ago and what's new and what's coming in field service. Microsoft's obviously putting a lot of money into Copilot and what's next and what's possible, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be a part of this. I appreciate your time and attendance and listening to this. I hope you have a great rest of Stone Ridge Connect, and if you have any questions, anything you want to ask me about, my email is bill.kern@stoneridgesoftware.com. Feel free to reach out. Love to interact with everybody and look at it on LinkedIn and all of those different things. But our team is happy to help, talk about it, or if you reach out to your seller, reach out to your customer service person, that client manager, they can engage me. I can provide a further demo, one-on-one demo for you and how we can help and learn a little bit more of what I was able to cover, at least from a high level, on today's session. So thank you and have a great day.